like her first time running it.
Yeah.
It's kind
What can you see it on my face? It just continues.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It is October 13th, 2025. Welcome to our 9 a.m. Board of County Commissioners Budget Workshop meeting. Let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present here on this nice Monday morning. In the conference room, which is great. And we are starting off with I'll start off with Jeff to do the introductions.
This morning, we just have the one budget before you, detention. A lot of time has gone into this one. And I'd say it's different than the rest in that we're not bringing kind of necessarily our recommendations. We're bringing a lot of information and details for you guys to be making some decisions. And we think there'll probably a lot of conversation and questions as we go through this one. So that's why we have the whole morning booked just for detention.
Yeah, and I'll say the same thing. This has been an effort over a year, taking our operation and basically shaking it out and putting it back together and looking for opportunities to save money. Don and his team have done a really good job with this. Then also, we did do an evaluation of the jail to see if we get more bed space in the jail, and you guys are familiar with that too as well. So I can't say enough about the work they've done. We're basically gonna set the board with 3 options that you guys can look at. Of course, there might be more come out of the discussion. So anyway, I'll let you kick it off, Don and Bryce.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, good morning, commissioners. So, along with myself and Bryce, Directors Barber and Ken Moore are going to be presented as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, it's been an interesting year, not what we expected. Prior to COVID, our population was well in the 900s, had a 200 inmate drop COVID, and it's steadily increasing ever since. And a lot of our projections have been based on that. We were going up 20 or 30 beds a year. All year long in 25, we've steadily been dropping. We're about 17 beds down this year. Go next slide, please. And yeah, steadily dropping, and we're down 800 between both facilities right now. Today we are at 789 between both, so not a position we thought we would be in this year. Next slide. Authorized positions, 319 authorized positions. We have 286 filled, 33 vacancies overall. And 9 positions were removed at the mid-year after they've been vacant for more than 6 months. So the 24 vacancies overall. CO vacancies, we are, next slide, I'm sorry, next slide. That's the questioners as well. And the other thing that's working against us right now with staffing is leave. So 3 up in FMLA, Washington State Family Medical Leave, 26 off, and full or intermittent. Military 9, safety loss 2, medical 2 for 42 people on some sort of leave. So, next slide. So 3 different options we have, and I think potentially could bring up other options depending on questions, but come up with, if everything stayed the same and we stayed with a status quo, filled all positions, kept both facilities going, we'd be short 7.06 million. Option 2, we made a number of suggestions and options. Closing Geiger A building, eliminating some positions that are unfilled, as well as eliminating some filled positions, including programs, work crew, EHM. We'd still be 4.77 million short. And then option 3, close the whole Geiger facility. Additional budget requests will require 3.9 million. So it'd still be 3.9. Next slide, please.
So as Don said, our status quo budget as entered is $71.9 million. That does include, it does not include the 9 positions that were removed earlier this year for the vacancies that were over 12 months. Approximately $1 million in those 9 positions. So that does not include those. So approximately $72 million is the status quo budget. Our target budget was 64.8. which meant that we needed to come up with $7.06 million in budget savings. Slide. Our 25 adopted budget is in that first column there of 64.82 million, as well as our 2026 target budget of 64.82. The two largest numbers there you'll see are the medical services contract, going from $10 million to 14.8 million. And that was because we did not last year during budget time, we did not sign our medical services contract. And we just used, I believe, 2024's budget number as the placeholder there. Also the county liability insurance has gone from 1.3 to 2.3, so approximately $940,000 increase. Next slide. Just kind of talked about this. Currently for our medical services contract, at the time we were reviewing proposals for medical services starting in 2026. That now has changed. As of last Tuesday, the board has approved us to contract negotiations with a new vendor. We have our 2026 budget number is based on our current NAFCare contract, including a $300,000 for offsite medical claims that the county is responsible for, estimated. $1 million reduction in there for our vacant hours that they don't have that we get a credit back for. I've estimated about $1 million based on current year's usage or actuals. And then also in there, we reduced the NAFCare number by $1.4 million because the mental health services is going to stay county staff, which left us at $14.8 million. See there, $4.75 million increase from our current 2025 medical services budget. Next slide. Also, liability insurance is calculated by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and risk management then provides departments those numbers. We have included these numbers because the tension, how we bill out, and we bill out based on usages. I don't believe most general fund departments have liability insurance or cost allocations built into their budgets themselves. We do because we turn all those services out to other city agencies. The BOCC has directed the budget office to fund liability insurance increases through fund balance. However, our target budget was not increased for that amount, which is why you're seeing it here. Next slide. The other two items to be aware of are cost allocation and IT services. Those amounts were not available to us yet. So our 2025 numbers were put in there as placeholders. So any increases to those amounts for 2026 will also cause additional increases. Next slide. So to summarize here, so our status quo budget of 71.88 million compared to our target budget of 64.82 leaves us $7.06 million savings needed. 5.7 million approximately is related to medical services and county liability insurance. Next slide. Sure, absolutely.
Are we expecting a budget amendment this year? Because the increase in the medical contract started at the beginning of this year, right? Correct. So what, if that's the case, shouldn't there be a budget amendment to account for that at some point? Or is it just that the savings on vacancies are kind of canceling that out?
It is right now. It's going to be very, very close. And Scott and Dawn and I have talked a few times about when to present what that will look like. And we decided later in the fall, back, I think, June, July, we were talking about it last. So it's looking like it may cover at this point, but we're keeping an eye on it month to month. So I would expect potentially something coming if it's needed in the next month or so.
Any trend? I'm just trying to think about that number. big number and the assumptions that feed that number. Can you talk about, if unless it's later in the presentation, are there any trends on hiring as to how you can forecast what role vacancies would play next year? And also knowing that contracts are being negotiated before arbitration. I'm sure that's baked in, but what do you see that vacancies might continue to provide some level of savings that would allow us to move that assumption down?
So potentially, also coming up are the savings from getting rid of some of the vacancies also, which aren't included in here yet. So there are some of those things that will potentially reduce that.
It's the number of vacancies changing right now.
It had been going down, and this year, right now, middle of the year, we had a number of retirements, and so we're holding pretty steady. So we had hoped towards the end of last year, Scott had the same question, we were going through our budget, that we never anticipated filling all the positions due to attrition's basically just we're barely keeping up hiring with attrition, so we are hoping to go 5 positive for, at least for corrections officers this year. Looks like we're gonna be pretty flat for corrections officers, so attrition and hiring is up. Stay negative, so.
I have a little bit of follow up on Mr. Jordan's question. Can you guys talk about there is vacancy savings in the budget, the 2026 budget preliminary right now, right? So about how many positions do you have?
So in that status quo one, were the 9 positions that were removed, and it's about $1 million. 900.
It's already been removed.
And those were taken out of that 71.
And no vacancy adjustment for anything beyond that?
Correct.
So it assumes that was 9. So the 9 is essentially what you have shown to be empty the entire year and the dollar amount. Correct.
We took those out right here when we talked about the long-term vacancies. Even the budget was not removed, so had they been able to staff up, we would have been too bad. At this point, that's not where we are.
And your vacancies today are, so I see 24. So I think there is room, if that trend held, there's room that adjusted in the 706 shortfall.
It may help a bit to just think about that and as one more option that might get us a little closer, but there's a long way to go, obviously. Thank you.
Next slide. To summarize, we're talking a $7.06 million budget savings that were needed between status quo and our target budget. We'll talk about operational savings that have been identified, approximately 2.29 million, which still leaves us 4.77 short of target. Slide. And in our submission, in order to meet the target budget, we removed that 4.77 out of salary and benefits line items. It doesn't really help. I guess that's the bullet point to talk about here. If we do take that 4.77 out, it creates an additional 86,000 hours of overtime, which would cost us $5.2 to $5.7 million. However, that was the number to get to our target.
Next slide. We're gonna go over each one in detail, but this is a summary of operational savings that we did identify. So we have slides for each one of these, but we've identified $2.29 million in savings. Next slide, please. So one would be closing Geiger A building. With our population now, it would reduce our capacity at Geiger from 220 to 180. We could absorb those 40 downtown right now. 6 officers that currently are assigned to Geiger A building would be moved to fill vacant positions, offsetting overtime. $588,000 savings. We could do it now, but it would increase the population downtown by 40, but we can deal with that. Next slide. Next one is a number of positions that we vacant that we would eliminate. We have 2 vacant DSTA positions, 1 vacant DSTA 3 positions. Those are in our releasing and clerical areas. We have vacant mechanic, total of 289,000. Those are currently vacant positions. We do anticipate some extra overtime in the admin area. That is staff 24/7. Next slide, please. And these are filled positions that we would also eliminate. There's some redundancy with commissary, mailroom, and jail reception. There's 2 in each of those spots. We reduced down to 1. There'll be backfills. We have 1 floating between those positions. Geiger reception would go away, as well as Geiger maintenance tech, and the jail maintenance officer, who's currently an officer, would return to custody. That would be another $459,000 in savings. Existing staff who's absorbed the duties, potentially some delay in services, delays to the public, repairs and maintenance, both facilities. Some of those duties would get passed on to facilities. So, 459,000. Next slide, please. Work crew, we talked about this last year as well. Work crew programs not mandated by RCW, but does provide life skills to inmates, services to county departments such as the fair, and as well as service to community, litter cleanup, etc. Reducing the 3 positions, there's 2 officers and a sergeant, be $344,000 in savings, and related M&O would be 89 for a total of $433,000 in savings. Next slide. Also eliminating electronic home monitoring. Electronic home monitoring is also non-mandated. Provides an alternative to incarceration through the use of a GPS device that may allow an individual to keep their job and stay in the community. Eliminate the program, be a reduction of 2 case managers. EHM still can be used. Moon Security does it for some courts. It's a private company that does that. It's a total of 246,000. Questions?
Question.
Yes.
How many inmates are using that in a given year?
In a given year, we're about 18. I have to look at the count today, but I believe it's about 18. It's been hovering somewhere in that range.
If the court didn't have that, is it reasonable to assume those folks would be in jail?
I think that's reasonable. I'm not positive, but it is reasonable. It's reasonable.
I'm sorry, what was the number you said?
18.
18.
Currently, and that's been holding pretty much in the high teens all year.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, next slide, please. Also, the Geiger, the education program would also be reduced or eliminated. It's also not mandated by RCW. It does provide individuals an opportunity to take various classes while in custody, such as GED, breaking barriers, financial literacy, anger management, etc. The teacher salary is $111,000 and 63 in mostly testing fees. So for $174,000. Yeah.
So is this is all kind of under scenario 1?
All scenario 2.
Oh,
Scenario 1, I believe, was just status quo. We fund everything.
okay, so 2. So this is closing building A,
Closing building A as well as eliminating programs.
so the programs take place in building A, is that right?
They do not. The A is really the savings from closing building A is the officers that staff those floors. Then the inmates, those inmates would move. Really, the 2 are separate, but they're not mandated services. They're very expensive.
So in theory, you could close building A, but keep some of the programming. That's possible
That is.
logistically.
That is possible.
And maybe for that, just as you're going through these, Don, it wasn't clear which ones are kind of a la carte, like you can do this, it doesn't have impact over
Okay.
here, just like.
Good point.
That idea, that's Commissioner.
So I guess just to clarify, closing building A is really just the inmates that are on that floor. We move about 40 inmates out, but But the education, work crew and EHM could stay or go independent. Clarify the thing.
And EHM could still continue through private sector, right?
It could.
It would just be the county's EHM. There would still be an option for the courts, is that correct?
I understand the courts could use a private company to do that, but right now our officers, we have 2 case managers that oversee that process. So. That would be the savings.
The courts do that today. We don't know how many are on that, but there are people that are on EHM through courts.
Municipal.
Yeah, it's my understanding there's only one company in town that does it. It's Moon Security. I don't really know anything about it, but
That's who the municipal court uses.
I'm pretty sure that's what, I think there's only one game.
that's my understanding. Next slide, please. And along with that, we have a programs officer that oversees the education. He manages the classroom as well as takes care of other duties. Out of Geiger, he takes care of a community garden. He also does the work crews that take care of the groundskeeping out of Geiger. If inmate programs are eliminated, then we put the officer back into custody, being eliminated over time. So $98,000. So he's really needed to oversee and take care of the custody issues related to the program. Next slide, please. Basically summarize our 3 options. So back to the status quo. Option number 1 is just everything is funded just as we're currently operating. Option 2 is all the areas I already discussed, including programs, EHM, work crew, education, closing any building. That would still require an extra $4.77 million. And then option 3 is closing the Geiger facility altogether. Additional budget request would require $3.2.
Yeah, could I suggest an option 4?
Yes.
Reduce the capacity in the jail budget. You know, instead of running. Get the number 900 cells,
Sure.
you run 800 cells, close a couple wings and operate to the budget. What would that look like?
Closing, I guess the reason we came up closing Geiger, fluoride and Geiger is that I'm sorry.
I'm not opposed to closing Geiger, but even by closing Geiger, you don't hit the number.
So
True.
we would have to do that through the contracts. For sure.
Contracts with who?
Just saying it's another option.
Jurisdictions.
Jurisdictions, the other
Yeah.
contracts with the other jurisdiction.
Yeah, all of our misdemeanor contracts. Yeah, that is also an option.
That's an option.
Yeah, have not been fully evaluated yet.
It's gonna come up later on in the presentation.
Okay. Okay.
Did that answer? Rich, that answered.
Oh, yeah, no, if you're gonna address it, I'm just I'm assuming under all of this, there's a pony waiting for us. Because.
Maybe not this birthday,
Maybe not
next year.
birthday, huh? Yeah.
Next slide, please. So that kind of just summarized the 3 options. I think we talked about it. Status quo is everything. Geiger A building remains open. Inmate programs continue, no changes, vacant or filled positions. That would require $7.06 million. Next slide. Option 2. Fund 69.59 includes the total savings that we've come up with for $2.29 million. I would close Geiger A building and eliminate certain vacant positions as well as some filled. Eliminate inmate programs, still requires $4.77 million. And option number 3. Kennedy, you want to go on this?
So again, we were asked to review option number 3, which is to close Geiger. So the analysis of that. We all know that the facility is beyond useful life, requires significant capital investment. From a security perspective, the facility is porous, meaning that it cannot house the bulk of our felony inmates, which
on any given day is something on the order of 500 inmates. Felony charges, about 67% of our population. We're not obligated to hold non-statutory inmates, so that's kind of the thought process here. We would be lowering head count by about 130 to 150 inmates to make it work. That would constitute about 55 US Marshals, about 15 Department of Correction inmates, and leave behind about 60 to 80 regional agency inmates that we would have to vacate. We would also look to eliminate 24 filled positions, plus 2 contracted nursing staff roughly for our medical service provider. We would eliminate 50% of the overtime in the jail, would be one of the benefits to be able to shift those officers from Geiger to the jail. And again, this is kind of a worst case analysis. We might be able to do quite a bit better than 50% of overtime being reduced. And then reductions, obviously, if we close Geiger, we're not paying lease, we're not paying utilities. There's duplicate services out of Geiger, kitchen facilities, laundry, transport, etc. Obviously, by reducing 130 to 150 inmates, food supply would be reduced as well. But again, this would require that we recontract regional agencies, the city, the valley, Deer Park, etc. And with those new contracts, and we've talked in the past about this, some roundtables, we would have to move to the equitable billing model, which, if you'll recall, today, if an inmate has a felony and a gross misdemeanor and a misdemeanor charge, that felony trumps everything and we pay full boat. In a scenario where, they had a county felony charge and a gross misdemeanor charge with the city, it would be a 50-50 charge. Likewise, if you had a felony with the county, a gross misdemeanor with the city, and maybe the valley had a misdemeanor charge, it would be a third each. So we would like to move to this billing model. We see this being done across the state, Benton County, Kitsap, Yakima. It wouldn't be unique to us. It's probably a more fair model. That's being called equitable billing. I could take you through some of the numbers on the next slide.
If you're going to discontinue the lease out at Geiger, does your budget also include tearing down the buildings?
Yes, and I have a note on that on the next slide, so I'll get to that.
Okay. All right.
So the next slide, yeah, thank you. So the first column, you can see housing revenue status quo, so no equitable billing, no reduction in staff. We would expect 2026 revenue to come in about 15.94 million, 27 revenue, 16.74. Estimated revenue post closure, should we close the facility? Fortunately, obviously, dropping 130 to 150 inmates reduces revenue. So we would expect revenue to come in 26 at 6.02 million, 8 million in 27. And the only reason that's jumped slightly is because we would likely bring back in some US Marshal inmates, try to optimize revenue. Third column talks to estimated housing revenue loss. So, if 15.94 minus 6.02 leaves you with a $9.92 million loss. Likewise, below that, $8.74 million loss, 27. We do see, pretty significant savings. If we do close the facility, that $6 million number constitutes the overtime reduction, which is about a $1.7 million reduction annually. The position elimination would bring in about 2.7 million. And then duplicate services, lease, lower medical staff headcount, food supply brings in the remainder. So we would see $6 million in operation savings. But as you can see on the far right column, the net loss, 26 would look like about 3.92 million. Again, worst case, 27, 2.74 million. And I'll take you to the last slide. In order to implement this plan, as Commissioner French points out, we would need to remove the buildings from the parcel. So demo and abatement come in at a rough $4.7 million. We would also require some capital improvement, one-time capital improvements at the jail to gain about 34 beds. Be some showers that would need to be installed, some bunk beds, etc. So $1.7 million to complete that work. The good news is, as we pointed out in the past, when we talked about challenges with the Geiger facility, we do have a cost avoidance component, which is roughly 45 to 50 million. You'll remember we did the environmental system retrofit investment grade audit. That came in at 45 to 50 million dollars. That was building envelope, windows, for instance, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, etc., all being replaced, some ADA components. So significant expense that we can avoid, as well as, it only buys us 15 years out there. And again, we've said in the past that the building is porous. It doesn't really meet our growing felony population needs. So we would be concerned about expending those funds on a facility that probably doesn't meet our needs. I think that's the last slide. Questions?
You talk about what the overtime assumption next year's budget is. It looks like last year it was budgeted at 3.2. So what is the actual this year so far, and what are you projecting for next year?
We have our actual price.
I do not have actual offhand. We'd have to go back and take a look to see what it
Our
is. It
vacancies
is
is
coming in close, like from,
To 3.2.
it's very, very close with maybe a slight overage. Depends on if you look at overtime alone, or if you take the holiday also, which includes all the overtime on holiday. Holidays coming in higher than anticipated. We're still adjusting to the new extra holiday in there, as well as just the number of people that are on staff. Typically, on the bigger holidays, we go down to minimum staffing.
Yeah.
The other holidays throughout the year, I believe we keep normal staffing on. So it is impacting us.
So did I hear right that you're assuming like 5.2 to 5.7 for next year?
Additional if we do that. So it would be on top of what our budget.
If we eliminated all of the positions.
Correct.
Okay, just for a cost savings. You're talking about if you close Geiger A. and
That's
eliminate a
actually-
Position, then you'd have more overtime.
So different slides. So on the 86,000 hours on that slide, that was the 4.77. To get there, we had to reduce salary and benefits by that 4.77. The number of hours that would create was 5.2 to 5.7 million, just those positions. Our budget does include what we expect based on current staff.
Which is what?
With overtime and holiday is approximately 4. I think we had about $1 million for the holiday overtime pay. So in the Geiger side where Ken was assuming or estimating 50% reduction, it would be approximately 50% of that.
Do you feel like that's a reasonable assumption if you're almost to your 800,000 below that this year? Do you think it's gonna go up that much if there was status quo?
We made some assumptions on the staffing from Geiger. If all the officers moved from Geiger, we thought we would lose some officers that had never worked downtown. There was some assumption built into that. As well as adding the extra inmates downtown, we would have to bolster the staff downtown. So we took a 50% on. Because of basically our 24 vacancies, I think we did fill about half of those would be extra positions on extra floors that were doubling, et cetera. So we didn't think we'd realize the whole $4 million in savings or 3.2 in savings. So
I was thinking about status quo, that's baseline, right? Of how big is the hole that you're trying to solve on? And so I'm just trying to figure out if that number assumes 4 million next year in overtime, which is a big leap from last year
So
or this year.
So in total, it's approximately the same. I think there was like a $200,000 increase between 25's overtime and holiday pay line items to 26.
Okay.
So we're assuming a little bit to get us closer to the actual on the holiday side,
Okay.
but
So you're thinking
overtime.
about
it's-
together,
Correct.
then it's really not that much of an increase. So, all right.
So status quo is what we think overtime will be if nothing changes.
That doesn't include the negotiations are going through.
Does not, we have some of that built into the salary projection. But yeah, arbitrator decision probably February is my understanding.
That will add.
Don, you gave a number a little bit ago. You said if Geiger were to close, you'd bring how many folks over to the downtown jail? Did you say 40?
So immediately, that was just closing Geiger A building. If we
Okay.
only closed A building,
Okay,
40 inmates we couldn't absorb out of Geiger would have to come downtown.
okay, okay,
And that would limit the population out of Geiger from 220 to 100.
okay,
That's filling all of B building.
okay. So right now you have about 220 out there, or that's just your
We were
capacity?
209 this morning, I believe, 209 this morning.
Okay, has that been sort of the, I remember like a year ago, we were hovering around 150, kind of.
Correct. It's
consistent.
been close to 200 or a little over 200 most of the year. We've been
Okay.
keeping it pretty full.
Commissioner Curran, the majority of those are sentence prisoners coming.
Yeah.
And I think I've shared those numbers with you.
Mhm. Yep.
So in option 2, you wouldn't have to do any capital improvements at the downtown jail. You can accommodate those 40 people.
The 40 people we could accommodate right now, just based on our reduced inmate population.
Okay. You just have them out there because they don't require as much supervision. And so
This-
it's always good to keep this facility more for your folks that need more supervision.
Yeah, any inmate could go downtown, but not all inmates could go
Right.
out to Geiger, I guess, but inmates with higher medical needs and just behavior issues all go downtown. So
US Marshals don't allow any of their group.
Right, okay.
keeping the floors below max gives us some breathing room. So to move people throughout the facility as fights happen and things happen. So
Near the time period for renegotiating the contracts, 180 days.
On all of them.
US Marshals is 30 days. I think that DOC is 60 days. And I believe the city contract are 180, right? Yeah. So that, right?
Are those contracts covering their costs?
So marshals and DOC, no, because they do their analysis and they give us their rates. The city contracts, 100% do. They pay actuals based on their usage, and then whatever's left over comes to the county. So if currently, I think we were sitting at through 2024, 82% was county responsibility. So the county had 82% of the responsibility for what was left over after we reduce our expenditures by the DOC and marshal revenue.
So I guess, so on the DOC and the marshals, so let's just talk theirs first. So we have a contracted rate. Is that rate covering?
It did when the analysis was done. They take our actual, so US Marshals takes our actual expenditures for the prior year that was available. They reduce medical, and there's some other services that they don't pay for because they provide their own.
court and other transports, they take care of all that.
So at the time they do, when the contract signed, but then we sign a 3-year contract, and as costs go up during that time, it's no longer covering the cost until we renegotiate it
Right.
and resubmit. And we're up for renegotiation next year or the year 26 or 27.
So when you say they don't cover medical. So do they pay our?
Offsite medical, they remove all offsite medical out, but if they're using medical in the building, they are paying. You're paying that portion.
Yeah, so if an inmate's transported to the hospital, they take care of the built hospital as well as take over guard duty as well.
And then with the municipalities that we have. We're not at equitable billing right now, so basically, if they're charged a felony and a misdemeanor, we're paying the full amount. Even if it gets reduced down to a misdemeanor. The charge.
Until it gets reduced down and at that point, they would take over, but it could be a year or 2 years, however long it was. And you could have 30 misdemeanors and one felon, the felony
Right.
takes it, so the county takes the whole charge.
And so, because I think I was talking to like Chelan or Douglas County, I can't remember which one, where they built their new facility and we're looking at how they billed. And I didn't remember that they could do this equitable billing. So is it state law allows us to do that?
I believe Jim Maceo looked at it a year or two ago, and it does appear that it allows it. There's a few other counties that are doing exactly what was proposed in that.
Okay.
I believe it was, yeah,
Yeah, Yakima, Kitsap, Benton, all currently do.
equitable, that there are two. So Benton, Kitsap, and Yakima do include felonies in their equitable allocation. So if there's one felony with 2 misdemeanors from 2 different agencies, it's a third per agencies. There are some other counties in the state that do the equitable billing, but exclude the felonies, and the counties still take the felony 100% if there's a felony.
It's the most serious charge.
Correct, most serious bill based on most serious charge.
So we don't think anything precludes it. And to your question earlier, are the other jurisdictions fully covering their costs based on how we're contracting with them today? Yes. Are they fully covering their other inmates that are in there on felony and misdemeanors in their jurisdictions? No. That's a shift to an equitable billing, which would allow for that. But the way the contract's written today, they are fully paying their costs.
Okay, and so then with. I mean, I guess there's so many questions.
We'd have to,
Yes,
they have to agree to it, though. It's not something we can just unilaterally implement. It has to be something that they agree to in a contract with us, right?
We would have to provide termination. There's a couple of the things that we've.
6 months termination, then renegotiate the contract.
You know, we have to also, there's some population triggers and reasons for doing it. Like the US Marshals and DOC has to be out, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, they would have to agree to it, but it would be in turn for them to send us their misdemeanors. We would have to agree to also keep their misdemeanors. So yes, they could say, no, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
And then by RCW, they could take their sentence prisoners and move them to another area if they wanted to, you know what I'm saying? They have that ability.
Do you by chance have the numbers today? What is felony versus misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor in the jail today? Just roughly.
Yeah.
roughly. Doesn't have to be exact.
I'm thinking 80%, about 80% felons, but I don't know.
Well, just rough numbers, like last Thursday, I just scanned it. It's roughly about 67% felonies, 20% gross misdemeanors, which is about 124, 150. 10 misdemeanors, and we've got about 90 to 100 bullets on.
I'm surprised the gross misdemeanor and misdemeanor is that high. Wow.
Domestic violence charges, most of those fall into the gross misdemeanor as well. Also, DUIs, sentence DUIs as well.
Also, the city has taken advantage of the ability to book them on the opioid, or I'm sorry, on the drug charges reduced by the Lake decision after gross misdemeanor. So we're seeing some of those. But it's, when you look at this, and I'm gonna pull up the website here.
And then that was there. That's, yeah, close.
so
72 today as well.
kind of go back to the book release center that we tried to do. You know, the Commissioner French and I had seen back in Maryland and like, and trying to get back to that. Is there a way to open that back up to allow less pressure on the jail or on the system? You know, because this is all a system.
Yeah, conceivably it could, but the population that would flow through there would be the book and release population.
That aren't in custody now, it just it happens at a different location, so.
But does that help alleviate? Because the other piece of it is the booking center, which is on red light status again here recently a lot more.
Sure.
Is what I'm hearing. You know, would some of that take some of that pressure out? Because again, this is a whole system thing, and I'm hearing frustration from law enforcement that they're back to, waiting for hours. And it seems like every here you can scan it all, so you can correct me. I'd love for you to correct me. That, it's like certain times at night, every night it's closed. So how do we look at that? Because again, that's the whole system that we're paying for, that we've got to figure out how do we.
I think right now, the problem is we've gone to red light, and I know you and I, when we did our tour, we've explained it, but we've been on red light, like 3 different main causes for red light. Right now it's staffing, and it's not just overall staffing numbers, but a lot of times it's when we send people out to the hospital or send people out to, for off-site emergency. So that's causing red light in the middle of the night. That's that middle section of graveyard where there's actually no group of people we can mandate to fill that spot. So that causes a problem in the middle of the night. So I don't think it happens every night. It's not close, but Saturdays and Sundays in the middle of the night, if there's an outside medical, it almost immediately guarantees we're going to go to red light for about a 4-hour block. It just does. And so that's probably what you're hearing. I'm not positive, but so Friday into Saturday, Saturday into Sunday, there's not as much medical staff. There's no medical providers. So we send out more to the hospital. In the past, when the IRC was, when we were occupying the IRC and we were using that, I think we were going to red light back then because we had too many inmates and rather than bring him into the booking area, release him immediately would reduce some pressure on the booking area. That's not what's causing red light right now, and probably hasn't for the last year. Red light now is mainly staffing, and it's not overall staffing numbers as much as it is just those emergencies that happen and we reduce the staff in the jail. There's only 18 people working on a night shift or on a weekend. And as soon as if you send 2 offenders out to the hospital, that brings us down to 14 in the whole building, two staff escort. So I think I maybe over-explained it, but I don't think the IRC would help us now to alleviate red light. If we had the staff to, it potentially could bring some pressure off of the booking area. I don't know if that explains it.
I'm thinking if we're looking at closing Geiger or reducing Geiger, is there means to bring staffing back?
There would definitely be then. Yeah, that's
to make it better, because it's like, I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. If we do this, what are the other positive benefits that happen?
We brainstormed a whole bunch of ideas on that, and one would be, what can we do with our staff? And so same thing, the last thing I want to do is, you've heard from me for signing bonuses for the last 4 years and everything else, how hard it is to hire our staff. And the last thing we'd want to do is let any staff go. And so we attrition about 20 people out a year. So even if 40, I think there's 45 filled officer positions out of Geiger, if they were moved downtown, or we do think some just close to retirement may not want to go, but majority come downtown, and we add sick relief to shifts, add medical escorts to shifts, to like basically those weekends and nights would definitely help us stay off red light. And we could occupy or send 4 staff over both sides of the week and have more hours over at the IRC as well. So we looked at a whole bunch of options, and those were things we could definitely do if we did close Geiger. Did that answer it very well? I don't know. But I have a lot of options if we could absorb 45 people. If we had 45 extra people, I think we'd at least half our overtime, if not better. We think that's maybe kind of conservative. So because we'd have built-in sick relief and built-in escorts on every shift as well.
I think to me, it's like, if we look to close Geiger, and it's looking like we're closing all of these programs that are helping people, like what are we doing to then help people?
Sure.
And to me, that's what we've got to look at, is like, what are our opportunities downtown then to, make it better for the circumstances that are getting worse. So red light status is one of those, because again, it affects the system. What can we do to help people that are there? And if we're moving this population back down, if electronic home monitoring can be done by an outside agency, I'm fine with that. But knowing it's a different environment downtown for people. So how, can we continue the work? Can we continue things that are going to give them some positive outcomes?
We've done work crew out of the jail before. They have to be housed separately from everybody else. So, but it's a program we can look at.
And how do you handle work release? Because you've got people like Geiger that are work during the day, but come back for the evening.
Yeah, we haven't been doing work release for a while. Yeah, the numbers are too small.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Yeah, work crews, yes, but work release, we have.
So if they're on work release, they were just, now they're just out.
Yes.
Rather than electronic monitoring them.
Could we do it from downtown?
No, I'm just saying, are those type of individuals that used to be doing that, are they just on electronic monitoring?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe that's probably the 18 that are on the HMs.
And of course, know the options, because it was, we messaged it to the courts that we weren't doing it anymore, so.
Guys, when you talk about red light status and staffing, though, I just, if you could put into that more, you're not saying that it's that we're understaffed. It's that the folks that are on the clock at that time have to respond to some critical incident in the jail.
I think,
You know, whether there's a death, a fight, transporting somebody to the hospital, it's sort of that unexpected event that happens, and you have to do kind of all hands on deck to attend to that incident, whatever that is.
I think you explained it. I think it was a perfect explanation for it. That's
Okay.
exactly it. So
Okay, because I know that there's some folks out there that are trying to imply that we're understaffed on a shift, and that's why we're going into red light status.
we start our shifts all fully staffed. So it's either with staff that are assigned to those, or we fill them with overtime. That's where that $3.2 million in overtime is for those vacancies. So, but everything starts fully staffed. We have 18 people. I'm typically talking about nights and weekends, because during the day we can usually absorb these. But at night and weekend, if you have 2 medical transports, a fight, 2 inmates get into a fight, they both end up requiring medical care. They both go out, and we send 4 officers out to the hospital. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You know, the inverse would be, I mean, you schedule 4 extra people, but then you don't have a fight, you don't have anybody transported, you don't have now you've run an inefficient staffing level, and it costs more.
Yes, we balance that with, so we have added sick relief to all 3 shifts, or to all 4 shifts, both sides of the week. Day shift during the week, we use FTOs, but I'm probably over explaining, but night shift and weekends on both days and nights, we have sick relief, 3 assigned sick relief on all those. But as you see with FMLA and just sick relief, and then everything else, those get absorbed pretty quick. So we could add more to each one of those shifts. But it is inefficient if it's not used. Yeah, that's the.
It's kind of like,
On the equitable building model. If jurisdiction does not agree. We couldn't do that.
House there.
we don't house the prisoners.
Do we have the right to not house their inmates?
They have to go through a termination, follow the termination notice provisions in the agreement and do some other population management to allow us to do that. So we'd have to go through that to get to that point. Board would have to say, issue termination notices with the intent to renew, and here's the other steps we have to take.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is relying on that billing model realistic for 2026.
Not 26.
That'd be looking at the
27.
27,
Yeah.
not 26. Okay.
And that's what was in
Potentially halfway through 27.
The year.
probably later, yeah.
The downside to that is the jail management system can only handle one type of calculation. So if it goes mid-year, it would blow up the prior. So it likely need to be like a retroactive if it went mid-year, retroactive back to January 1. Not the IT expert, but I do know that.
We got a few of them around here though.
We have ours.
We have,
Abacus and some spreadsheets.
Questions? This year, didn't we approve several $1 million for some kind of renovation downtown to expand capacity, and what's the stats?
want to go through.
So yeah, but so on the budget side, real quick, earmarked, but not in our budget. I believe the budget office set it aside,
Set it aside.
so not allocated to us. Yes,
Yeah.
not allocated.
Yeah.
That was the $1.7 million component that we had for some showers and some upgrades to be added one time. So hoping it could come out of that.
And then they did an evaluation of the third floor, the annex as well. And it has significant challenges with being able to house folks on that lower part of the public safety building.
So where would the beds come from?
And that 34 number was a whole lot higher last year, wasn't it? We were looking at it,
Yeah.
because I thought it was,
If we were to
it was
do-
3 million set aside, but it was a much larger number than 34 beds.
We were hoping about 100 beds.
Yeah, that's
Through
what
analysis, it looks like shoehorned in about 34.
So that's kind of the updated, more realistic number after doing some evaluations. Okay.
Sir,
I mean, option 3 for the Geiger demo. Did you consider reaching out to the fire districts or the fire department and using it as a training exercise, just torching the building?
we did not.
That is an option.
I know that
mean,
is an option.
they would, yeah. I would suggest for almost $5 million, buy a lot of matches for $5 million.
No, we have not done that yet.
So all of the programming, substance use, breaking barriers, et cetera, currently occurs at Geiger.
It does.
And I assume there's still no classroom space downtown.
There is not.
Okay, so really, if we're talking about closing Geiger, currently all that goes away.
We've attempted small amounts in small groups, but you've been there. It's in the middle of a day room. It's not conducive to classroom activities.
Half the population's in on the floor, half of it's out. It's
And-
just, we have religious services that we offer. But going back to like the classroom out in the modules is almost impossible now.
We've attempted it over the years and have not been successful. And work crews, they did do work crews 30 years ago downtown. Fentanyl crisis we're dealing with, keeping that population separate it's just almost impossible. Yeah.
I mean, we could evaluate it, of course, if the board wants us to, but it's gonna have its challenges. Because the introduction of contraband.
Oh, I was just looking at the numbers. And so really the difference between 2 and 3 is about $850,000, right? You wouldn't save that amount of money. Right? It's 4.77 minus 3.92. And that doesn't include the cost of Geiger demo and the capital improvements to the jail. So I mean, those are one-time costs, but I mean, when they are costs. So I'm just running the numbers to me. I mean, my initial reaction is option 2. Although I would like to not cut the work crew and the programs. But I mean, there is a savings to number 3, but then we'd have to pay for all of the capital improvements. And I'm just wondering if, since the task force has got kicked off, looking at our whole system and where we might want to make investments, it might move us to let that process hear from the community where they would want to invest before we make those investments ourselves, with our current dollars. But those are just my initial thoughts.
As far as the programs go, I know, when you look at in-person versus virtual, I know it's never gonna the same level of sort of education, but when you look at the different programming, I know in the tower, there's the tablets. Are there educational type applications and stuff on those tablets that folks can utilize and access? Is that something that's been looked at if it's not there?
There is now, there is some,
Okay.
there is now, they put opioid awareness training out on the tablets, they put legal updates or a lot of law library information comes out on the tablets. I'm trying to think what else comes out on the
Well,
tablet, but
I-
we push out information now. on-
Why, so one of the things you mentioned, one of the class, I don't remember which slide it was on, but I mean, the GED, breaking barriers, financial literacy, anger management, partners in parenting.
Sure.
Are there types of programming along those lines that they'd be able to access on the tablet?
I think we have to do the research. I'm sure there is. We're not currently doing it. We have
Okay.
a teacher doing it, but I'm sure there is. I'm
Okay.
sure there's a way to do something.
So that there might be a way to, I mean, there's gonna have to be a level of sort of that kind of self-guided, take the initiative to get on the tablet, do it, but it's, it wouldn't be that programming would completely go away if we could maybe supplement something like that with some sort of virtual online type programming.
Remind me, is all the programming, is it voluntary or is it court ordered?
Some is court ordered, so some is court ordered and there's some compliance, then some are compliant, some are not, but majority of it is voluntary.
Okay, and the majority of the participants are participating voluntarily?
Correct.
The same for work crew. That number is gonna be about the same because it's per ratio of officer too, the amount of people that can have a work crew. You have to increase the officers to increase the size of work.
So to Commissioner Cuny's point, an option 3 makes more positions available to staff up the intake and release center to basically reconstitute it. It's a building, it's a standalone structure that's sitting over there right now, which could relieve pressure off of the jail booking. Is I think I just looked at the dashboard. 17, we're running at 17% of book and release number year to date. So there are a fair number of individuals who law enforcement are coming in, booking them and immediately releasing them. And those take up room in our booking center right now, our small booking center. So having that availability would in theory reduce some of the pressure and reduce some of the red light situations, along with possibly some other staffing things. It's an additional expense. It's not recognized here in that option 3, but it certainly if we could come with as an evaluation, and Dawn and team looked at some of that already.
We have,
Yeah.
so.
And then I think what I'd like to see on the different options is, because your slide, I know, ours 23, I think is your slide number. I mean, again, we're not getting the whole picture of what this means. This is a piece to try to reduce your budget, but it doesn't look at what's the capital cost to, the one-time costs. So I guess that's part of what we need to be looking at and analyzing, that what are those capital costs that we need to know. You have it in a different slide, but it's kind of like you need to see, here's what our possible reduction is. Here's what that means on the capital side that we need to do. And then here's the future savings of doing that. I mean, I'm not getting the whole picture here.
Sure.
So.
And really, the capital expense is mainly related to closing Geiger and then demolition of Geiger.
And additional work downtown. I mean, you said there was like $1.7 million of, or again, not like it's not, it's not,
sure.
It's not easy for us to make that, determination to go, okay, so this is what this is gonna cost and kind of each year. I mean, because it's not gonna happen in 26. It could be out into 27. So I don't know, that's what I'm trying to figure out, what's the real cost? There's real savings and there's real costs.
Well, then option 3, to your point, when could you actually trigger that? Just to find the actual cost savings, because it will take a while to renegotiate contracts, to do the capital improvements. I mean, we're talking probably a year at least, so it's not really realistic for 26.
And we know the reality is we aren't gonna stay in Geiger forever. So I mean, so there is no way to put, you know, $30 to $50 million in Geiger. Because we can't stay there forever. I mean, it's a lease space. We know the airport doesn't necessarily want it there long term. So I mean, so we know we've got to work at getting out of that, but I just need to know what all the costs are and all of that,
Sure.
how we do that.
And just to add a little clarity on the kind of the timeline, the assumptions that were built in. I mean, 26 would be the year where we would, you know, for instance, you may drop the termination letters in January. To Josh's point, you would have your 180-day notice in the June, July timeframe. We could start winding down city population at that point, the longer term 180-day notice vendors, and the equitable billing. The new contracts would be negotiated throughout 26. We would make them effective January of 27. And then, you know, we have to let things kind of operationally smooth out a little bit over a year or two. And it's a good point. We wouldn't be tearing the Geiger facility down January of 27. It would likely be a little bit of time for us to kind of take the building down piece by piece operationally. We've got to get systems out of those buildings. And then maybe it's 28 when you're actually scrubbing the land. So
It's gonna take the transition period.
it's gonna time.
But
Yeah.
it is built in, those assumptions are built into that slide, 27. So it's not assuming a Jan 1
Yeah,
here.
we talked through that. It's gonna take us a while.
It's just, it's not easy to understand it. Like, you know,
It's complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think seeing a little bit more on the assumptions fleshed out would help, just kind of seeing the clear picture. I was gonna ask, assuming, just thinking in a longer term, we were able to close Geiger and bring those folks downtown and then have 30 something new beds. I mean, what would the maximum capacity be downtown? I would wonder about numbers going back up potentially, and really where do we start to hit red? And then does that affect, you know, like what we need to put aside for liability if we've got, we've talked last couple years ago about the tense feeling in that building when you got people stuck. That creates a lot
currently-
of pressure, I would assume, to put some, you know, 100 something people downtown who are not there.
It does. We have current 717 actual beds downtown. When we get anywhere close to that, it just gets full. You guys are aware, either gender issues and classification levels and gang issues. We never get close to 6, 7. So we think we're gonna add 30 or 40 beds. So in the mid 700s. I would expect when the population actually hits 700 out of 750, we're really, so, yeah. Ken and I have looked at it over and over again over the years of looking at this. And I think every time we say we come in front of anybody and say we need about 10% operating capacity, it seems like a huge number. So that'd be 70 beds. But over the course of a weekend, from Friday night when court ends till Monday when they start going to court again, everybody, so you really need to absorb all of those intakes. And so I would say the high 600s, if we could get the actual capacity up to 750. Well,
That
yeah,
helps.
it's
No,
never
that does
really a
help.
750. It wouldn't be a 750. So
We'd be within our operating capacity, that 10% operating buffer. And again, just to be clear, if you took the 200 inmates out of the Geiger facility, you drop 130, you'd have about 70 that you'd have to move, or plus the 30 beds. So we would be within our operating capacity, but we plan for peaks. And
Yeah.
we're not at peaks right now. It's kind of optimal time right now when we look at the numbers, but you know, just in January and February, we were pushing 890s, actually 900s. Should that come back? So hurting.
That's why we need the flexibility in the contract to add and subtract population as we need to through the contract.
But just to clarify that, lowering headcount by 130 to 150 includes 60 to 80 regional.
City would be a good chunk of.
So you're assuming city and valley folks would go, which is a big assumption too.
Correct.
I assume they wouldn't want their folks to be let out on the street or have to go somewhere else. I assume.
So that's why you don't get as much of a budget savings in option 3. Cause you lose the income from those contracts.
Right,
That's why it's only like an $850,000 difference. So anyway,
We would attempt to optimize revenue after we stabilize, let's say we're in 28. Hey, all of a sudden we've got 50 beds. Let's call the USC
Some
and
more US
bump them up a little bit
Marshals.
for a month. And try to get that revenue coming in, but it's gonna be a balancing act every month. We don't know when the peaks and valleys are coming.
Don't have to
It's
manage,
challenging.
don't have to manage his capacity. You know,
That's always the challenge. We don't get to decide who comes in. We don't get to decide when they leave for the most part, so.
There's two, that 850 spread. There's opportunities with overtime because we took kind of a conservative view at how much it would decrease, so there could be greater amounts of overtime decreases. And then a year or two, if we are going to equitable billing, then that has well, that gap grows even more because there's more revenue coming in to offset. That's why the 2027 shows only a additional 2.74 million.
could I ask about the medical contract? If you can't answer, because I know we're in contract negotiations, you can just say, sure, they'll not answer that, but what are the we're building in the number of the current contract we have, but we're gonna be contracting with a new medical provider. Could there be some changes in the total cost in the future to the medical contract?
I think there will be changes, but I don't think it's going to be significant. I don't think it's going to change our outlook here. I don't think it,
At least for the next couple of years.
but it is early. It is early. We're
What
just.
kind of contract are we looking at negotiating again?
Talk to them.
How many years?
3 or 4 is the right with 1 year, extensions afterwards, and we've
Seems like
always.
the longer contract that we negotiate, we should be able to find a way to keep costs down. I mean, it's been a significant increase, right? In the last year, significant. So,
the escalators moving forward are a lot less than what had heard from that. That's what I'll share that with.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, there was a reason why it went up.
we did have to, I mean, there is a need to provide some more medical staff, right? Specific position to meet kind of national standards.
And like, just like our liability insurance is going up, all of the medical insurance companies, their liability insurance and stuff. So I mean, so they're not trying to gouge us. I don't think it's just reality yet, but what's going on and what's costs for them that they're, you know, there was a couple of big settlements, all the insurance companies, their medical insurance is going up, liability insurance is going up for them as well. Plus, as we've seen in escalators with medical, nurses and all of that, I mean, it's just going up. So I mean, so I don't know that we're gonna be able to keep it down in the future. Because we can't have them reduce their staff. Otherwise that puts them in the liability situation that they can't do as a corporate company. So, I mean, I'd love to see it, but I think we're gonna be stuck with these medical costs, in the future. And so that I look at that and I was trying to find a slide that shows, that are, I mean, keeping status quo, but our medical costs went up $4 million and our liability insurance is going up almost $1 million. I mean, we don't have a choice on that.
That's basically like option two's dollar amount right there, right? I mean, it's hard to manage ourselves out of that.
Yes.
I was gonna say, I got a chance to go to the graduation a couple of months ago for, I think it was Break Barriers.
Yeah.
It would be a shame to see some of that stuff go away. Treatment programs, as I think we would probably most of us agree, that's one of the main ways that we reduce recidivism and lower that population over time, is that when people come through the building, that they go out better the one that came in. So I worry that, decisions like that are basically shooting yourself in the foot as a system. And sure, if you were gonna go down, everybody downtown, you'd look at every option. But it sure seems like there's a significant value to that class being in person and with the instructor, and they build that relationship with that person who's done it for so long. So I personally think that would be a bad move, counterproductive. But we're looking at all options on the table here. And I just second Commissioner Waldrop's comment that I'm hoping this community task force that's looking at the whole system can help give input on some of these things going forward, because as Commissioner CUNY said, it is it's a whole system issue. You're not choosing who comes in, right? You guys are the catcher's mitt. So no easy decision.
Do we have a sense of what the value of the work crew? I know they provide a lot of value to the community, which of course we don't see necessarily that offset, but
How much work would that?
how many
would
hours
take on
they're
those?
providing, setup and cleanup and litter removal and all of those things. So I just, it'd be an interesting conversation with our community partners that put on those big events like Bloomsday and Hoop Fest, and it's a lot of cost that goes into that. So I don't know, if there's a way to partner with them on helping with this.
They come up with estimates, how, if they had to hire members of the
Sure
public
they
to do
could,
that work,
easily.
you know.
Well, you guys track how many hours they're out
We do.
working, so you could just put a dollar amount, right,
Yeah.
onto that. Anyway.
Any other questions?
So we're sending this away with a list of assumptions, I understand, right?
All one slide, so.
And
Yeah,
then
kind
a
of see
list of
the
the
timeline.
multi-year
Yep.
look at like 26 and 27 would be helpful, like and how much the savings would be in 26 and then.
Take out
As
the
well as
outside, the
27.
revenue that would be lost and kind of.
But yeah, just really giving us the reality of it, in a spreadsheet that shows.
Cause there's the one-time cost and then there's the annual costs and.
I just want to make sure the team knows what the commissioners are looking for to help advance the conversation. So more detail on the phasing of the Geiger closure is one. I heard summary, try to bring everything together on one slide.
Right, a spreadsheet. I mean, it's not gonna be a slide. It's
Got
gonna have to be a spreadsheet because it's gonna be
Maybe the
bigger.
11 by 17 page.
It'll be a big one.
Get out the paper.
It's gonna be a huge one.
Can you come up with what would be a realistic vacancy adjustment proposal, if there is one? That should be on the table.
Yep,
Yeah, that's,
big, you got that one on here as well?
and when you say assumptions, Mr. Jordan, are you saying you want a little more detail of what was built into each of the
Scenarios, yeah.
in terms of overtime and reduction of positions? Cause you did put like positions reduced, but then you're talking about absorbing some of them.
Sure,
So
yeah,
there's a lot of assumptions going into the back end of it.
there has been, we've had to during that, it's
Which is
like, we're
good.
assuming half would be lost, we reduce overtime by a half, we reduce, some people would leave. There's
So
been a
you
lot of
have
assumptions.
those numbers, you've been running that.
Here's another one. Can you, on the option 3, estimated revenue post closure? Can you give a little more about what does that mean? Where does that come from?
I'm sorry, I missed the very first part.
Option 3, I think Ken's got it,
Okay,
but
yeah.
I'd like to know more about. I know that equitable billing is maybe a later conversation, but what kind of impacts on our partners we talk about in the other jurisdictions?
Anything else that would be helpful?
I think if anyone has items, and if you can reach out to Mike and get those items to the rest of the team.
I was just curious what people are thinking of the equitable billing.
But I think that's a further
Because it's-
discussion.
Cause that's a long time. Gonna,
We talked about it for years.
yeah, we have.
Back when it used to be called fractionalized, but like,
Yes.
so.
So, I mean, I think we're gonna have to do that at some point, but I think we gotta figure out where we're at right now. And then, see what we're doing for the budget coming up in 2 months, and then, because that's a. Again,
That's a long-term thing.
it is a long-term
Yeah.
thing, it's we gotta give 6 months notice. We gotta look at what that means in negotiating what the new contract would be. So,
I agree, that's a.
This might be a little bit of a smaller issue, but I would. On the idea of the electronic home monitoring going away. I would like to learn more about. I assume the courts aren't just gonna pick up that cost if they don't have a budget for that, so. Unless there's a specific.
That's on electronic monitoring.
Oh,
Our cost is we hire. Is it COs to go and check on them?
Case
They're
managers,
expensive.
case managers.
I guess my question is, if that goes away, is that gonna increase our jail population by people not being on that program and coming back right in, and what's the cost of that? Just the consequences of each
but I
choice.
think, just correct me if I'm wrong, there's about 18 people that are on it. But they would go from the county doing it to a private company doing it, because
The option is
a lot of misdemeanors that are on it,
It'd be the
Right,
courts that make
go-
that decision whether or
go
not they
to
can
a
be released.
private company.
So. And they still have the same opportunity, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Don, could you share a little more insight into that whole process? So. What determines them to go on the county program versus a third party program? Do the courts say, all right, individual, you're eligible for electronic home monitoring? And we say we can pick up some of those or?
I believe that's actually accurate, and we're pretty conservative on who we put out on EHM. Because our name's on it when somebody walks away from EHM or is non-compliant. And so I believe we are fairly restrictive on who we allow on EHM. And I think that the courts pass the others on to Moon Security. I think ours is a much more inclusive electronic home monitoring, where we actually have our case managers calling them every week, and we actually go out to their house once a month. I don't believe that happens in the community for the private companies. So we don't allow like domestic violence charges on our EHM just because we're concerned about public safety issues. So I don't know if that explained it, Scott, but we're pretty restrictive on it, and that does keep our numbers down.
Yeah, I just wanted for the commissioners to understand, if I'm understanding correctly, the court's making the choice of who can go on EHM. If we didn't have an EHM program, that wouldn't preclude the courts from still placing those conditions and saying, yes, you can go on EHM, you don't need to go into jail.
I think that's accurate. Yep, court has to send them to EHM, has to.
Thank you,
I guess we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
appreciate it.
Could I ask something non-budget related?
Sure.
So just. What's your estimate on capacity in the jail today? Downtown.
Today, none of the improvements we talked
Correct.
about and
Correct.
not changing.
What's the current status right now?
Well, 717 beds,
Yeah.
and I would say when we're in the high 600s, we're really full, and it
Yep.
can cause us to go to red light, et cetera. So,
Yep.
yeah, 675, somewhere in that range, we're really full.
Okay, but where are we at? How many vacant beds that you would say are useful today?
Today, what are we at? I had the count somewhere here. It was
560.
580, about 100 beds vacant today.
Vacant, and so those aren't blocked, those aren't closed, those aren't full. There's nothing preventing us from using those today.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
okay,
There's almost 100 beds, 80 beds easily.
okay.
and we bring them to us. Yeah, we
Okay,
fill them up
and
right
the
now.
reason I asked was because I know that there was some coverage last week. There was a council member that more than once last week told the media that as a part of the home program that the city is running, that they said that jailing repeat offenders is not straightforward due to capacity issues. The jail is full and at capacity and the county runs it. They are on red light status and turning people away. That is what a council member said last year printed in the media.
I would say since like February, March, I'm not saying there's never been, but February, March, since February, March, we have not been going to red light because of capacity.
Okay.
If something causes us to go to red light, it would be a staffing issue, like I talked about with medical or an emergency.
Okay.
And we've had plenty of capacity all year long. most of
Okay, so that's a false statement that council member,
Looks like it's not based on capacity. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not based on capacity.
okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
That was all that we had this morning. Okay.
So
So we're not moving to the parks till later.
having at 1:30. Here. Last week we had talked about the GSI legislative agenda and putting the Northeast PDA's request on it. I just forwarded each of you a response from Jesse out at the PDA. They're saying with some of the changes with the city and revenue, they're on a bit of a standstill. And they asked for something in the governor's budget. They're sounding kind of iffy there. Don't know about getting in front of them if they're not gonna. Seem a little odd for us to make a request if they themselves aren't gonna make any request. So it was just looking, I need to get those pieces in. And wanted to get some feedback if anybody here knows a bit more about the situation to fill in some blanks.
Yes.
The city, I still today, I don't think has paid the PDA, correct?
I don't.
And that they are arguing the amount that is due to the PDA. It has quite frankly caused some financial concerns and kind of, put a big question mark on the viability moving forward. I think we are still making our payment, holding up our end of the ILA. The city wants to open that up, wants to look at all the allocations on how much they should be paying into the PDAs, and it's causing a lot of problems, including kind of putting a pause on this project that could be a real benefit to that part of the community.
So I'm on from the U District PDA perspective. So last week or the week before. So for the last 3 or 4 years, the city background is State Department of Revenue used to be able to run the numbers to get the exact sales tax generated.
That they've never they've never done it.
We
They
did in the
have now.
past.
Back.
We did it.
DOR's never been able,
Okay.
never learned to give it.
They could do it, they wouldn't do it. Is the thing.
So then, I must have had that wrong. I thought that they had done it in the past, but there was a formula that was created that everyone agreed to. But now they have the DOR numbers for the last 4 years. Am I getting this right? That they,
I've never, they have some data when, or I don't know what they have, what they use on.
They say they have it, but they won't show anybody. The city.
well, I don't know, the PDA directors met with the city a couple weeks ago. And it looks like the amount of sales tax generated was not what was less than what had been being told to the PDAs for them to be able to budget.
My understanding is they got 3 years where finally, and I don't know why, DOR said.
Yeah.
Okay, we will use the exact locations and get you
Right.
very, very accurate numbers within your PDA boundaries. I think the first year indicated that possibly the PDAs were overpaid, but the second 2 years showed that the PDAs were actually underpaid by the city. And I think the city, and my gut tells me the city was hoping they were gonna find that they overpaid and they could pull back some funds, but I think what they actually found was they had underpaid the PDAs and now they don't know what to do. And so they haven't paid at all now, at least any PDA.
Well, the
as a
information we
perceived
got,
funds.
yeah, at our U District board meeting 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, was that, and they had all the numbers up there that there was overpaying, at least to the U District
Yeah,
PDA
District
by a
one.
significant amount.
I think it's the opposite for West Plains and Northeast.
So this is, so we are in the position at the U District. I don't know where we're gonna go with the purchase of the land at the end of the bridge that Avista, has given us first right on. And literally, we had put together everything and a loan from our treasurer here. But without this revenue that we thought we had based on the formula that had been being used. Now that you have the real numbers from DOR, it's for the U District PDA, it's almost $1 million over 3 years. And so that's, we need that money to be able to guarantee the loan to the county treasurer, a short-term loan. So anyway, that's our issue at the U District. We don't know how we're gonna resolve that, so that there are ongoing conversations and looking at paying back the city over a longer period of time. And, the city's obviously involved in the PDA, wants to support the work of the PDA, but even a 10-year or 5, 6, 7-year payback, it's still not gonna give us enough cash flow from what we were hoping to be able to pay back the loan to buy the property. And Vista's given us several years of, extra time to put together our portfolio on that. So anyway, that's our issue, but I didn't know where the other PDAs were with their dollar amounts, but it sounds like it's impacting this project,
Yes.
at least for just this year.
So I would say we don't put it on the
Yes.
agenda if it's not gonna be
I mean,
supported,
it might stay there. Sometimes,
but you gotta be able to justify to the legislature.
I don't
And
speak
if you
to, sometimes they just keep stuff that was there from the previous year.
Yeah.
I mean, so do we just remain silent? We don't put it in?
That's what.
I don't feel like it's necessarily our project.
That we were just gonna support it.
We were gonna support it. I don't feel like it's our project for me to say, please
I mean,
take it out.
he flat out says, Jesse flat out says, we're not going to pursue ledge funding
So, yeah.
at the state
Well,
level this
so-
year.
So I'll just say silent, and it's won't be that one.
I don't think we should put it in.
Yeah, he did indicate that. This may just be some clarification with Jesse that he possibly might. Well, maybe he possibly might put in for some design dollars, design and engineering dollars in the governor's budget, but we want it to be on the state legislative agenda as well, and GSI if there's gonna be anything, but not this amount, not this high of an amount.
Well, I think the amount, I mean, because realistically, the state budget as such is probably not gonna be funding this year. Leaving it on the agenda could be there just for that long-term awareness, and keep it top of mind.
I would only put it there, if Jesse's thinking he wants to have it there, otherwise we need to.
Right.
We're not putting it there for them.
Yeah, exactly. I was wanting everybody to have awareness and make sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anything else? Ladies. Back this afternoon at 1:30.
1:30 will be parks and we'll start on the capital. It'll be big pieces.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, I'll be virtual, so if there's a big piece of paper, can I get it on email?
Well, we can print you one before
Oh,
you
that'd be
head
good,
out.
yeah.
But we'll put it in the shared folder as well, so you
Yeah.
have access.
I'm gonna be scrolling back and forth. The fact
Yeah.
that's good.
Maybe I have to take a photo on my way out, so.
Is there something going on?
Just, well, this baby medical today. I can't call her a baby anymore, child medical.
There you go.
We did update.
There are other
Is
things
it
going on.
baseball game?
Well, I'll be multitasking.
It's like, sorry, Jojo, but I gotta see what's.
Yeah.
We did
Sorry,
update
I didn't catch
the schedule, if you wanna look at it online. November 17th is hopefully needs to be last decision to the extent possible. So we have a completed budget for the 10-day posting. We took off one afternoon in October. We had a commissioner who couldn't be there. I don't think we're gonna need all those afternoons. We took that one off. So if you look at the updated schedule, let's put the levy date on there, so that's there. So just a little bit updated schedule there. Nothing huge.
Tomorrow night's the roundtable.
Yes, tomorrow night.
Well, it's a round table, so get your tickets. I hear it's gonna be crowded.
5:30 p.m.
We'll be out front scalping, so we'll come right in last minute.
We're gonna close the budget gap, sell those tickets.
So, tomorrow afternoon, how long do we anticipate the 2 o'clock session being? Assuming that it's going to be short and sweet, but, I've been,
public hearings.
Our presentation will be similar length to the first one, so if there's not comments, we're talking 5-10 minutes.
We're at 5:30 p.m. though, not at 2 p.m.
About 5:30. You'd be.
well, I've been have to be out at the Kaiser, to meet with bowling and stuff tomorrow and stuff, so. And that's at 3 o'clock, so. I'll be at 2:30 then and be as much of the meeting as I can. We're going out there.
And I just declined because we're here, so.
I told them I couldn't make it and they said they'd set up something else, future tour or something, but.
Yeah, and they approached me last week and said, really need you out there, and I thought, okay, fine.
So yeah, and then we do have the 5:30 tomorrow night, so. So, okay. With that, then we will continue this meeting, if I say this correctly, until 1:30. And see everybody back at that time. Thank you.